Over the past month, there have been several updates to Blend My NFTs. In this video, we're going over everything that was recently added, as well as some older features that haven't had a video of their own. Alright, so the first major feature I want to talk about is something called Rarity. Now, Rarity is a way that you can specify the number of times that a certain attribute appears. So, for example, if you want a red cube to appear 90% of the time, and you want a blue cube in your NFT collection to only appear like 1% of the time, you can use Rarity to set that appearance level. So let's navigate to this link right here. This will be the first link in the description. Once we're here, let's scroll down and we'll come here to this table of contents. Now, there's a link right here that will take you to the notes on rarity and weighted variance. So that's exactly what we're going to be looking at in this section. There's a lot of detail here about the mathematics, about how it works. There's some examples as well to sort of help you along. Lots of stuff here. I won't be getting to this in depth into it. However, let's show what an actual example of applying rarity looks like to your NFT collection. So first of all, let's come here to the code button. We'll click it, and then we'll click download zip. This will download Blend My NFTs as a zip file to your downloads folder. Then we'll go here to this link. This is a second link in the description. This is the new features examples file that we'll be using in this tutorial. So let's click download. So after we have downloaded those two files, we can go ahead and open up the new features example file in Blender. Just wait for that to load. All right, and we can see here we have some really simple geometry. It's just a cube, torus, cone, and a sphere. You can see the structure of how they're laid out here in the scene. And if we look closely, we can see that there are different colors for each of them. So if we go through sphere, you can see that there are different colors there. And the same for torus and cone and all that stuff. So these are our attributes and our variants for our NFT collection. So let's go ahead and install that version of Blend My NFTs we just downloaded. Really quick, if you haven't seen the previous tutorial, we'll go to preferences here in edit, and we'll go to this add-on tab. We'll click install, and then from install, we can just see here that this zip file is in that directory. We double click that or click accept. We go down here, we click the checkbox, and that'll enable Blend My NFTs. So now it's installed and enabled. Let's just save this really quick, just so that we have our preferences saved here. So we click save. Awesome, it's working. Let's rename this to something more appropriate. We'll say rarity test or tutorial. This is our NFT collection name. We'll go here. I'm just going to leave this set to 100 and this NFTs per batch set to 50. If you want to know a bit more about what those do, check out the previous tutorial. I talk a lot about features of Blend My NFTs in more detail. After that, let's go to this cube attribute right here and let's set some rarities. So for the first cube, let's say we want the cube to appear, this red cube to appear 90% of the time. So 90% of our NFTs will have this red cube because we want it to be really common. We want a lot of people to see it. It's a really cool red cube. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's pretty simple. Rarity is percentage based, meaning that out of 100%, you can set certain percentages for your variance. So for red cube, for example, let's set it to 90 because we said we want 90% of people to have this beautiful red cube. Let's go ahead and view it actually. It's so beautiful. Look at that. Wonderful. All right. So 90% of our NFTs will have this red cube. Now, what about that extra 10%? So we can go ahead and say we want 5% to have this blue cube. We also want this black cube here to have 4%, and this white cube to have 1%. So let me just explain to you how I'm going through that. So it's easy to think about rarity as 100% because it's a nice round even number. A lot of people are used to using 100%, so it's just easier to think about that. So how did I figure out which rarity and percentages to add to these variant collections? Well, that's pretty easy. There's a lot of detail here in the README file. We scroll down here, we go back here to notes on rarity and variance. We can see that we add up these percentages to 100%. and it'll tell you, and it'll give you the percentage and chance that will appear. And if we look down here, it'll be the same thing for weirder numbers. So if you want 1000%, then you can have 50 plus 50 plus 50, and so on until it hits 1000%, and it'll be the same thing as a 5% chance for each variant. So if you want to deep dive and understand about what that is, I really recommend checking out this link here, notes on rarity and variance. For right now, let's go back to the Blender file. We've set our rarity, so this red cube will appear 90% of the time. Let's click enable rarity, and that enables rarity. If we don't have that clicked or checked, nothing special will happen. So that cube will appear 25% of the time because it's well, out of 4. So let's go ahead and create this data. Awesome. So that's done. I'm going to create images. So let's check that. Let's go PNG. And before we render, I'm going to go to Window, Toggle System Console. And this will open up the Blender System Console and will tell us everything that's going on behind the scenes. It'll tell you the progress of your render and how it's moving along. So let's go back here and let's click Generate NFTs. And if we come back here to the Blender System Console, we can see it's chugging along here. It's going really quickly, actually. All right, all done. Brilliant. So let's go ahead and see what we generated. So if we go back here to this folder for the video, we can click this Blend My NFTs output folder. We'll go to generated batches, batch 1. You guys know this if you've seen the previous video, but if you're unfamiliar of what we're doing here, just make sure to go back and check that previous video because I go into a lot of the basics of what's happening here. So if you're ever confused, go back there and check it out. So as we see here, the vast majority of cubes appear to be red, which is awesome. Now, if I remember correctly, that's not the one. If I remember correctly, white cube should appear the least amount of times. So let's go back. And I don't think I see any white cubes. Well, there's 1, there's 2, 3. Yeah, so there's 3 out of 50. So that's pretty rare. And now you'll notice that it isn't exactly, we're not getting exactly 1 white cube. That's because rarity is percentage based and it's not deterministic. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind. Rarity can't be deterministic for some mathematical reasons with code and Python, but the weights and variance will generally appear the larger your NFT collection is. We have a really small sample size right now, so it's hard to get that accuracy with our percentages that we defined here in Blender. Awesome. All right, so I think that's it for rarity for now. Let's move on. All right, so now that rarity is wrapped up, let's move on to a new feature called logic. Now, logic is a way that you can specify rules between the relations of certain attributes and variance. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a red cube in your NFT collection, and that red cube doesn't really look well with a blue sphere in certain NFTs. So you never want that red cube to ever appear with that blue sphere. Or let's say you want a red cube to always appear with a red sphere. Now, logic is a way that we can specify certain rules like that. So let's get into it and I'll show you how you can do this. The process itself does involve a little bit of coding, but don't worry, don't get scared off. It's really easy. I'll show you how to do it and we'll go through step by step. Now, because we are going to be writing some code, we are going to need something called an IDE, Integrated Developer Environment. It's a fancy word for text editor. It's a lot more than that. People get angry when I call it that, but for all of the purposes of this video, it is a text editor. The one we're going to be using is called Visual Studio Code. I already have it installed down here, so if we open that up, it'll look something like this. If you want to install it, you can just type it into Google here. We'll go to Visual Studio Code, and let's say 2022. And we can go here. It's provided by Microsoft, but it's free to use. There are multiple versions. I think I use the community version, but yeah, if you ever get stuck, there are tons of tutorials online about how to install it. Let's go back to the Blend My NFTs repository here. We'll go down to this logic JSON schema, and basically this is the code that you're going to be using. So I've already written it out. You don't really have to worry about writing it yourself. So let's copy this. We'll go to Visual Studio Code. Let's create a new file. In this new file, we'll select the language. The language we're going to be using is called JSON. JSON is a language that's used to store data and send it between different languages. So it's really useful. So let's just search for this here and we'll click JSON. After that, let's paste this template into our logic file. So before we go any further, let's just make sure to save this. So let's go save as, and let's title it something appropriate. Let's go logic tutorial. There we go. That's already there. Perfect. All right, and we don't have to specify the file type because it's already saved right there. So let's save this. Yes. All right, that's from a previous take. But now that we have this created, let's see what we have in here. We'll open Blender up here and take a look at the scene. These are the collections that we're going to be putting into our rules. All right, so let's go ahead and define some rules. So in here we have 2 rules so far. These are just templates, they're empty. In this item list 1, let's remove this entire thing here. So let's just delete that, and let's delete this as well. Oops. All right, so now we have a blank empty template. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this as well. I'll explain why in a bit. So within these 2 quotes, we're going to be putting any collection name that we want our rule to apply to. So let's say we want cube to never appear with sphere. So let's copy the name for cube, put that in the first item list. Let's put sphere in here as well. So now let's define our rule. So in logic for Blend My NFTs, there are 3 rules you can choose from. There is the always with rule, the never with rule, and the only with rule. Right now I'm going to be showing you the easiest to understand is never with. So let's type this in, never with. And the easiest way to think about this is every item in this list right here will never appear with all the items in this list down here. Now, structured like a sentence. So you can think of it as cube will never appear with sphere. That's awesome. So we have our first rule down. Let's go ahead and save this. So let's save that. Now we'll come back to the Blender file and let's check this enable logic button right there. And let's select the one that we just created. So that's logic tutorial.json. Let's accept that and it'll show the path right there. And now simply just create your data. Awesome, and we get the little notification down there. It worked, and let's go ahead and create the first batch. All right, so all the files have generated, and as we can see, the cube and the sphere never appear in the same images. So let's open this up here. We'll see we just have a sphere right here. If we go to this one right here, we only have the cube. So that's awesome. So no matter what cube it is, so if it's a red cube, blue cube, or a white and black cube, or if it's a blue, red, white and black sphere, they will never appear together at the same time. So let's go ahead and define a different rule and we'll see what we can change. So let's go back here to Visual Studio Code and let's say that we want red cube to always appear with red sphere. So to change this, let's come up here and we'll copy the name for red cube. So we'll just paste it in there. Now we're defining a variant instead of an entire attribute. And let's copy the sphere name right there. We'll paste it in right there. And let's change this rule to say always with. Awesome. Let's go ahead and just save that. And let's regenerate the data. Awesome, another notification. And let's generate the images. All right, so if we come back here to this folder, we can see and look for a red cube. And if we open this up, we'll see that yes, indeed, every time a red cube is selected, the red sphere is selected as well. That's a really cool combination. But a curious thing happened. So if we open this up here and we look at this is a red sphere. Shouldn't that appear with a red cube as well? Well, because of the way we have our rules set up, we need to create another one. So let's copy that and let's paste it here. Don't forget to add that comma. And let's just swap these around. so that they always appear with each other. Now when we add a second rule, we need to make sure that this right here is a unique name. So let's increment this to 2 because this is our second rule. Awesome. So let's go back here. We'll open up that Blender file. Let's create the data again and then generate the NFTs. Now if we go back to the images, we can see that every time a red cube or a red sphere is chosen, the red cube, the opposite red cube or opposite red sphere will be chosen as well. So they will always appear in pairs. So if we look here, red cube and red sphere, another one right here, and we don't have any single red spheres. Awesome. We can expand this to encompass all the blue cubes and blue spheres, white cubes and white spheres. I won't show you all that. That's a very long process, but it is possible, and that's how logic works. If you want to learn more about the different types of rules for logic and how they function, you can come here to this logic section right here in the README file and scroll down to rule types. And this will tell you everything about all the different rule types and how they work and how they interact with different variants and all that stuff. But for right now, I think that's it for logic. Let's move on to our next feature. Alright, to explain this next feature, I'm going to be using our This Cozy Place NFTs as an example. We minted these a couple months ago. They're still available for sale on our website. The link to the website will be in the description, so if you want to check that out, go ahead. But right now, let's take a look at this Cozy Place NFT, number 364. Let's scroll down here, and let's take a look at the asset details and asset tags. So with NFT metadata, you can't control the asset details here. These are set by your marketplace. So let's go to the asset tags. These are the things we can set. So you can see that there are all these attributes here, and these are the attributes that would appear in your Blender scene. And we see we have some basic attributes, shelf modern gray, but then we also have these things here, Discord, and this is the link to the This Cozy Studio Discord. The link for that is also in the description, and our Twitter, the NFT DNA, and YouTube links to this channel and our website. So how did we get these on here? We used a new feature called custom metadata fields. This was recently added to Blend My NFTs so that everyone can do this. It's very similar to how logic worked. We're going to be using a JSON file and we're going to be doing some light coding, but it's way simpler. So I'll walk you through it and show you how to do it. First things first, let's go back to the Blend My NFTs README file and scroll down to this custom metadata fields section. Now here it'll explain everything in a lot greater detail than this video. So we're going to copy this scheme right here. Copy that. It's going to be the same thing as last time. We're going to create a JSON file in Visual Studio Code. So let's open that up. So let's just click File, New File, select a language. Language is going to be the same, going to be JSON. Have that there. So let's paste this in. And we'll get rid of these 3 dots here and format that. Now let's save this. Save this to the same location we saved the logic file. This time we'll title it Custom Fields Tutorial. And again, JSON file, so we can just save it. There we go. Awesome. So the way we have this set up right now is anything within these quotation marks is going to be the title, and that title will appear here. So it will be the attribute name of whatever you're adding to your asset tags. So if we wanted to add our Discord, we can go here and change this to Discord. And then let's just copy that link. And paste that in there. Awesome, so we have our Discord link. I'm gonna go in and fill in a couple other links and I'll show you what it looks like in the end. All right, so I've now added all of the links to this custom fields tutorial JSON file. Let's go ahead and save this again. And let's go back to that Blender file. So for this section, I've already rendered out 100 images. So now all we have to do is just refactor our batches. So if we come here and let's say that we want to create Cardano metadata because we're going to be launching our NFT collection on the Cardano network. we can go here and specify a description. So this will format the description to whatever metadata type you're working with. So if it's Cardano, Solana, or ERC-721 or Ethereum, it will place that description in there as well. So let's set this description here. This is the description. And let's go ahead and click this Enable Custom Metadata Fields. So this will open up a save path here. And if we open this and navigate to that custom fields tutorial JSON file we saved and open this up, and then all we have to do is click refactor batches and create metadata. So let's do that. We'll verify that and click OK. After this point, you can't go back. So if you want more information about what this step is in more detail, check out the previous tutorial. So let's go ahead and do it. Awesome. And get this little message down here. So it says back to that directory. We'll open up the output folder, and we now see that the generated batches is now changed to complete collection. So let's go here. Let's check out the metadata folder. So we selected Cardano. Let's go here. We should have 100. Let's scroll up and open the first one here. Awesome. So we can see that those fields were passed and the description was also filled in, which is pretty cool. That's it for this feature. Now, I think this next feature is by far the most important feature to ever be added to Blend My NFTs. When you're rendering thousands of images, animations, and 3D models, it can sometimes take tens of hours to complete a single batch. Blender often can't handle these complexities and it fails right in the middle of a batch. So with that in mind, I went and created a new feature that allows you to resume a failed batch. So let me explain how that works. Alright, so let's say we're in Blender and we want to create a new NFT collection. I'm just gonna quickly go through here. We're gonna click this Create Data button. That'll create the data. I'm not gonna enable any of this. Just note that we have 100 NFTs in our NFT collection size. The first batch will be 50 NFTs. Let's minimize this. We'll go here to this generation tab and we're going to select images, PNG, that looks good, batch 1. And let me pull up Task Manager here. There we go. And we're gonna simulate what it would be like if Blender failed right in the middle of a generation. So let's go ahead and click Generate NFTs, go back to Task Manager, and we will end it after a couple of seconds. So let's go now. There we go, Blender's just been quit. Awesome. Let's go to the batches and see where it failed. So if we go to images here, we can see that it failed right at 18. So if we open this up, it's actually quite interesting. It hasn't rendered out the full image, so it stopped halfway. So just keep that in mind. And the number 18. Let's go back to the folder. We'll open up the Blender file that just failed and see what happens. So right away we notice that there's this new button here called Resume Failed Batch, and as it implies, it will resume the batch that we just failed. So let's click Resume Failed Batch and see what happens. Before we do that, let's just make sure we toggle System Console, open this up so you can see what's going on, and let's resume the failed batch. There we go. All of them have been generated, and if you notice, the very last one was number 50. So let's scroll all the way back up here and see which one it started at. So we notice that it restarted the generation of number 18. And if we go back to that folder, the batch folder, batch 1, we go to images, and we can see, let's locate number 18. Now this one has been healed or re-rendered, and we see that all 50 have been rendered. So it started off exactly where it left off. So that's awesome. This will be a really big help to anyone who's generating very large batches and they often fail. So I'm really excited that this is now a feature, and I hope you liked it. If you have any questions throughout this entire video, please feel free to leave a comment down below, and also check out our Discord server. We're always there helping people who are asking questions, so go ahead and check that out. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're interested in buying one of our Cozy Place NFTs, it's available on our website. The link for that is in the description. Blend My NFTs has been in development for many months now, so I think it's gotten to a point where it's pretty stable. and many of the features that the community has been asking for are here. This Cozy Studio is going to be moving away from Blend My NFTs. That's not to say we're going to completely stop updating it. It simply means that we're going to be diverting our time and our resources to other endeavors. I want to give a big thank you to our entire community on our Discord and our YouTube channel. We really appreciate it, and from the bottom of our hearts, we could not have done this without you. So in the coming days and weeks, This Cozy Studio is going to be branching out our content, and we're going to be diversifying into different fields of interest. If you're interested in any of the content we've created so far, please feel free to subscribe to stay tuned for that, and we'll see you in the next video.